Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let the gentle waves of history carry you away. Tonight, we journey to ancient Alexandria to discover the story of a queen whose wisdom and courage echo through time. Relax and let Cleopatra's tale guide you into a peaceful and restful sleep. In the gentle warmth of ancient Alexandria, where the golden sun kissed the sparkling waters of the Mediterranean Sea, a child was born who would one day captivate the world, Cleopatra the Seventh. The city of Alexandria itself was a marvel of the ancient world, founded by the great conqueror Alexander the Great, just a century earlier. It was a vibrant center of culture, learning, and power. Its grand marble columns rose proudly against the bright blue sky. Bustling marketplaces, filled with traders, echoed with the sounds of many languages from distant lands. Ships from across the Mediterranean arrived at its busy harbors, bringing spices, silks, and stories from the farthest corners of the world. It was in this city of wonder that Cleopatra took her first breath, in the year 69 before the Common Era. Her family, the Ptolemaic dynasty, ruled Egypt. This dynasty was of Greek origin, having settled in Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. These rulers embraced many Egyptian traditions, blending them with their own Greek heritage. This fusion created. This great library was more than a collection of scrolls. It was a gathering place for the brightest minds of the age. Philosophers, mathematicians, poets, and scientists from across the known world traveled here to share ideas and discoveries. It was in this environment that Cleopatra received an education unlike any other young woman of her time. She was fluent in several languages: Greek, Egyptian, and likely many others. Some historians believe she spoke as many as 7 languages, a skill that allowed her to communicate directly with her diverse subjects and foreign leaders alike. This was an unusual ability for a ruler, especially a woman, and it set her apart. Her studies went beyond languages. Cleopatra learned about astronomy, the delicate dance of the stars and planets that ancient scholars believed influenced the world below. She studied mathematics, the foundation of architecture and trade, and philosophy, the pursuit of wisdom and ethical living. But Cleopatra's education was not just academic. She was trained in the arts of diplomacy, strategy, and leadership. From a young age, she learned the importance of understanding people, forging alliances, and navigating the often perilous waters of politics. Despite the privileges of her royal birth, Cleopatra's childhood was marked by the shadows of political intrigue. The Ptolemaic court was known for its rivalries and betrayals. Power was a prize fiercely contested, and alliances shifted like the desert sands. Her father, Ptolemy XII, ruled Egypt with a mixture of ambition and caution. His reign faced many challenges, not least the ever-growing influence of Rome. At this time, Rome was no longer a distant power. It was becoming the dominant force across the Mediterranean, and its leaders were watching Egypt closely. As Cleopatra grew, so did her understanding of the delicate balance she would one day have to maintain between tradition and change, strength and diplomacy. By the time she reached the age of 18, Cleopatra was named co-ruler alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. Though siblings, their relationship was complicated by the demands of the throne. Together, they were expected to govern a kingdom rich in history and wealth. But fraught with internal conflict and external pressure. The Nile River, eternal and calm, flowed through their land, a symbol of life and continuity amid the shifting tides of power. It was a fitting backdrop for the beginning of Cleopatra's journey, a story of ambition, wisdom, and resilience that would echo through the ages. As the sun set behind the pyramids, casting long shadows across the desert sands, the young queen prepared to step into a world where every decision she made could shape the fate of a nation. And so Cleopatra's tale begins, in a city of knowledge, power, and dreams. Chapter 2: The Struggle for Power. The years following Cleopatra's ascent to the throne were marked by a tension as palpable as the heat of the Egyptian sun at midday. Though she had been crowned co-ruler alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, the reality of shared power proved far more complicated than any royal decree could convey. The Palace of Alexandria was a grand fortress of marble and gold, filled with intricate columns that stretched toward the sky and decorated halls that echoed with whispers. But beneath its shimmering surface, the atmosphere was thick with intrigue. The corridors were home not only to servants and scholars, but also to courtiers who wove webs of alliances, rivalries, and secrets. Cleopatra, though young, was no stranger to this delicate dance. She quickly realized that ruling alongside her brother was a balancing act that required both strength and subtlety. Ptolemy XIII, though younger, was backed by powerful factions within the court, who viewed Cleopatra's influence with suspicion and, at times, outright hostility. Their relationship became a silent battlefield, where every gesture and word carried weight. Family ties intertwined with politics, and loyalty was a currency more valuable than gold. As the tension between the two rulers mounted, Cleopatra found her authority challenged not just by her brother, but by those who sought to use him as a figurehead for their own ambitions. In the flickering torchlight of the palace, plots were whispered, and plans were made to undermine her. The young queen was forced into a difficult decision: to stay in Alexandria, where danger lurked in every shadow, or to seek refuge elsewhere and gather strength for what lay ahead. Cleopatra chose to retreat eastward, away from the city's opulence, to regions where she still commanded loyalty among the people and the military. Though this exile was a setback, it was also a moment of clarity. Cleopatra's spirit remained unbroken, her resolve sharpened like the edge of a finely honed blade. She knew that regaining her throne would require more than local support. It would require allies with power beyond Egypt's borders. And so her eyes turned to the west, toward Rome, a city that was no longer just a distant republic but the beating heart of a burgeoning empire. Rome itself was a place of great contrast. On one side, grand temples and bustling forums celebrated the ideals of the Republic. On the other, streets echoed with the footsteps of soldiers, senators, and citizens, all caught in the tides of change. At this time, Julius Caesar stood at the center of Rome's political storm. A general of remarkable talent and ambition, Caesar had won battles across Gaul and had begun to reshape Rome's future. His power was growing, his influence stretching across the Mediterranean. For Cleopatra, aligning with Caesar was both a gamble and a necessity. The queen understood that the survival of Egypt's independence, her own rule, and the prosperity of her people depended on securing his favor. But first, she would need to meet the man who was as formidable in politics as he was on the battlefield. Their first encounter is the stuff of legend. As Caesar arrived in Alexandria amidst the backdrop of civil war, Cleopatra found herself barred from the palace, her presence unwelcome among the courtiers loyal to her brother. Undeterred, she devised a plan worthy of a queen known for her intelligence and boldness. Legend says she was smuggled into the palace, rolled inside a carpet or linen sack, hidden from the eyes of guards and spies. This act of daring was not just about secrecy, it was a statement of Cleopatra's courage and determination. When Caesar unrolled the carpet and revealed the young queen, he was reportedly captivated by her presence, her poise, her wit, and the unmistakable air of a woman born to lead. Their meeting quickly blossomed into an alliance that transcended the political. Caesar recognized in Cleopatra not just a ruler of a distant land, but a partner who matched his own ambition and intellect. Together, they began to craft a plan to restore Cleopatra fully to the throne, securing her position and Egypt's future. The ensuing conflict was fierce. Cleopatra's brother, Ptolemy the XIII, and his supporters resisted, but Caesar's military strength tipped the scales. Eventually, Ptolemy XIII met his fate during the battles that followed, and Cleopatra was reinstated as queen. This victory, however, was not merely the reclaiming of a throne. It was a symbol of Cleopatra's cunning, bravery, and resolve. Her reign, supported by Rome's might, marked the beginning of a new chapter for Egypt, one that balanced ancient traditions with the ever-changing realities of a world dominated by Rome. During this time, Cleopatra bore Caesar a son, Ptolemy Caesar, known as Caesarion. His birth symbolized the entwining of two powerful worlds. Though Cleopatra spent time in Rome living amid its grandeur and politics, she remained deeply connected to Egypt, proud of her heritage and mindful of her responsibilities. Her experiences during these years shaped her into a leader who understood the complexities of power, a queen who wielded influence not only through alliances, but through wisdom, charm, and intellect. As the Nile flowed steadily through the lands she ruled, Cleopatra's story was far from over. The struggle for power was but the beginning of a journey that would see love, loss, triumph, and tragedy. The city of Alexandria, with its marble temples and vibrant markets, awaited the queen's full return, and Cleopatra, ever resilient, was ready to meet whatever destiny had in store. Chapter 3. The meeting with Julius Caesar. The ancient city of Alexandria stood as a crossroads of cultures where the mighty Nile kissed the Mediterranean Sea and the bustling harbor welcomed traders, scholars, and travelers from distant lands. It was against this vibrant backdrop that two powerful figures would meet: Cleopatra, the young queen of Egypt, and Julius Caesar, the rising star of Rome. Caesar had arrived in Alexandria during a time of great turmoil. Rome itself was shaken by civil war, a struggle for power that had gripped the Republic and cast its shadow far beyond its borders. Yet, even in the midst of this chaos, Caesar's presence was commanding, his reputation as a brilliant general and shrewd politician preceding him. For Cleopatra, the arrival of Caesar was both an opportunity and a test. She understood that to secure her place on the throne and to protect Egypt's independence, she would need the favor of Rome's most powerful man. The story of their first meeting is woven with legend and mystery, a tale that has captivated historians and storytellers for centuries. When Caesar came to Alexandria, the young queen found herself barred from the royal palace, denied entry by her brother's guards. It was a dangerous game of power and deception, with Cleopatra caught in the middle. Yet Cleopatra was known for her intelligence and daring. Determined to see Caesar, she devised a plan that would become one of history's most famous moments. She was said to have been smuggled into the palace, rolled up in a carpet or a large linen sack, hidden from view, silent and unseen. As the carpet was unrolled before Caesar, the queen emerged, radiant and composed, a striking figure who carried both beauty and authority. Caesar was reportedly taken by surprise, but also deeply impressed. Here was a woman not only of regal bearing, but of keen intellect and courage. Their meeting quickly blossomed into a partnership that would change the course of history. Caesar, known for his ambition and tactical genius, found in Cleopatra a match, a ruler who was as politically savvy as she was charismatic. Together they formed an alliance that was both strategic and personal. With Caesar's support, Cleopatra was restored to the throne, her brother's hold on power broken by Roman intervention. The alliance was further strengthened by the birth of their son, Ptolemy Caesar, often called Caesarion, who symbolized the bond between Egypt and Rome. Cleopatra's time alongside Caesar was marked by moments of both grandeur and challenge. Though she spent time in Rome surrounded by its marble palaces and bustling forums, her heart remained in Egypt. She was a queen who embraced her heritage, the traditions of her people, and the sacred duty to protect her kingdom. Rome was a city of contrasts. The echoing speeches of senators, the clang of swords in the forum, and the quiet moments in gardens shaded by olive trees. In this city, Cleopatra navigated a world both familiar and foreign, always mindful of her role as queen. Her intelligence and charm won admirers, but also aroused suspicion and envy. Despite the challenges, Cleopatra maintained her dignity and influence, careful to balance her dual lives in Egypt and Rome. Their relationship was not without controversy. The Roman elite viewed Cleopatra with a mix of fascination and fear, often casting her as a seductress who used her beauty to manipulate powerful men. But the truth was far more complex. Cleopatra was a ruler in her own right, a woman who understood the power of diplomacy, strategy, and presence. Her alliance with Caesar was as much about securing Egypt's future as it was about personal connection. As Caesar's power grew, so did Cleopatra's. Their partnership helped to stabilize Egypt in a time of uncertainty, blending the traditions of the ancient kingdom with the rising influence of Rome. Yet even as they stood united, the world around them was changing. Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE would soon send shockwaves through Rome and beyond, thrusting Cleopatra into a new chapter of her life, one filled with both promise and peril. For now, in the golden light of Alexandria and the marble halls of Rome, Cleopatra and Caesar's story was unfolding. A story of ambition, alliance, and the intricate dance of power. As the Nile flowed quietly beneath the moonlit sky, so too did the currents of history move steadily forward. And Cleopatra, ever resolute, prepared to navigate whatever fate had in store. Chapter 4: The Aftermath of Caesar's Death. The assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE sent shockwaves not only through Rome but across the ancient world. It was a moment that changed the course of history, a turning point that marked the end of one era and the uncertain beginning of another. For Cleopatra, the news came as both a tragedy and a challenge. Caesar was not only a powerful ally, but also the father of her son, Ptolemy Caesarion. His death left a void that threatened the stability of her reign and the future of Egypt. Rome, once a republic of senators and citizens, was now plunged into chaos. The city's streets echoed with fear and uncertainty as rival factions scrambled for power. The Senate mourned its fallen leader, while ambitious men vied to fill the vacuum left by Caesar's absence. Amidst this turmoil, Cleopatra returned to Egypt, determined to protect her kingdom and secure her son's inheritance. She knew that the delicate balance of power she had helped create was fragile, and that the rising tensions in Rome could soon spill over into her own land. In the years that followed, Rome's political landscape shifted dramatically. The Second Triumvirate was formed, a ruling alliance between three powerful men: Mark Antony, Octavian, and Lepidus. Together they sought to restore order to the fractured republic and consolidate their control. Mark Antony, a skilled general and charismatic leader, emerged as a key figure in this new order. His connection to Julius Caesar was strong. He had been a loyal supporter and friend. For Cleopatra, Antony represented both an opportunity and a new chapter in her life. The queen and the Roman general met in 41 BCE, their first encounter set against the backdrop of political intrigue and the desire for power. Cleopatra's reputation had preceded her. She was known as a queen of beauty, intelligence, and cunning, a woman who ruled her people with wisdom and strength. Their meeting was more than a political alliance. It was a union of two ambitious spirits. Together, they sought to carve out a realm where their influence would be undeniable. Cleopatra's charm and intellect captivated Antony, and their partnership grew into a bond of both passion and politics. She bore him 3 children, twins Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene, and a son, Ptolemy Philadelphus, symbols of their union and the blending of their worlds. Their alliance, however, stirred unease in Rome. Octavian, Julius Caesar's adopted heir and Antony's rival, viewed Cleopatra with suspicion and hostility. The queen's presence at Antony's side was seen by many in Rome as a threat to Roman traditions and power. Rumors and propaganda spread, painting Cleopatra as a foreign temptress who manipulated Antony and sought to dominate Rome itself. But Cleopatra was much more than the caricature crafted by her enemies. She was a ruler deeply committed to her kingdom, a mother fiercely protective of her children, and a strategist aware of the fragile politics surrounding her. As tensions between Antony and Octavian escalated, the world seemed poised on the brink of war. Cleopatra stood at the center of this storm, her fate intertwined with that of Rome's future. The ancient city of Alexandria, with its vibrant markets and serene temples, was her home and refuge. Here she prepared to face the challenges ahead, with courage, wisdom, and the resilience that had defined her life. The tides of history were turning, and Cleopatra's story was far from over. As the stars twinkled over the Nile, their light reflecting on the quiet waters, the queen's thoughts surely wandered to the uncertain path before her. Yet in the calm of the night there was also a sense of strength, a knowledge that she would meet her destiny with grace and determination. Chapter 5. The Battle for the Future. The years following Julius Caesar's death were marked by shifting alliances, growing tensions, and the looming threat of war. Cleopatra and Mark Antony's partnership had blossomed into a powerful alliance, but the political landscape of Rome was more unstable than ever. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, was determined to consolidate his power and viewed Antony and Cleopatra's union as a dangerous challenge. The rivalry between Octavian and Antony was more than personal. It was a battle for the future of Rome and its territories. As their conflict escalated, the stage was set for one of the most decisive confrontations of the ancient world. The naval battle of Actium, fought in 31 BCE, off the western coast of Greece. Cleopatra and Antony commanded a fleet that represented the hopes of their alliance. Their ships were decorated with gold and rich fabrics, a symbol of their wealth and ambition. Yet beneath the surface, tensions simmered, doubts and fears about the outcome of the battle, the loyalty of their sailors, and the fate of their kingdoms. The morning of the battle was quiet, the sea calm, as if nature itself held its breath. The sun rose slowly, casting a warm glow on the waters where thousands of soldiers and sailors prepared for the coming clash. Octavian's fleet, led by his skilled admiral Agrippa, was determined and well prepared. Their ships moved swiftly and with precision, cutting through the waves like arrows. Despite their numbers and determination, Cleopatra and Antony's forces were at a disadvantage. Antony's men were fewer in number, and morale was shaky. The battle began with fierce exchanges of arrows, catapults, and close combat. The sea became a tumult of splintered wood, shouting soldiers and crashing waves. Yet as the fighting wore on, Cleopatra made a bold decision to retreat. She ordered her ships to sail away from the battle, heading towards Egypt. Antony, faced with the choice between following her or continuing the fight, hesitated. This moment of uncertainty proved crucial. Octavian's fleet pressed the attack, routing Antony's remaining forces and sealing the defeat of their alliance. The Battle of Actium was over. For Cleopatra and Antony, The loss was devastating. Their hopes of ruling a vast Eastern empire were shattered. They returned to Egypt, where their enemies in Rome celebrated their downfall. The queen and the general retreated to the city of Alexandria, the place where Cleopatra's story had begun many years before. But the end was near. As Octavian's forces closed in, Antony took his own life, believing Cleopatra had already done the same. When Cleopatra learned of Antony's death, grief and resolve filled her heart. She knew that her time was limited and that the fate of Egypt and her family hung in the balance. Despite the despair, Cleopatra remained steadfast. She refused to be paraded through Rome as a prisoner or a trophy of war. Instead, she chose to meet her end on her own terms. Legend tells us that Cleopatra, in the quiet of her chambers, allowed a poisonous asp, a snake sacred to the goddess Isis, to bite her. Her death marked the fall of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the end of ancient Egyptian independence. Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire, its centuries-old civilization now under new rule. Yet Cleopatra's legacy lived on. She was remembered as a queen of intelligence, courage, and complexity. Her story has echoed through history as a tale of ambition, love, power, and tragedy. As you settle into sleep tonight, let the currents of Cleopatra's journey carry you gently through the ebb and flow of history, through moments of triumph and loss, toward peaceful rest. Chapter 6: The Legacy of Cleopatra. The story of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, does not end with her death. Rather, it echoes across centuries, inspiring wonder, admiration, and reflection on the nature of power, resilience, and identity. Cleopatra was a woman unlike many others in history, a queen who embraced knowledge, diplomacy, and strength in a world ruled largely by men. Her life was a tapestry woven from threads of culture, ambition, love, and tragedy. Though her reign ended with Egypt's absorption into the Roman Empire, the legacy she left behind was enduring and profound. She was a ruler who understood that power was not only wielded through armies or riches, but also through intelligence, language, and the ability to connect with people. Her fluency in many tongues allowed her to speak directly to her subjects and foreign leaders, breaking down barriers and forging bonds. In a time when women were often confined to the shadows of history, Cleopatra stood at the center of political and cultural life. She embraced the ancient Egyptian gods and customs, presenting herself as the living embodiment of Isis, the goddess of magic and motherhood. This connection to tradition helped her command respect and loyalty from her people, blending the old with the new. Cleopatra's story has fascinated artists, writers, and historians for millennia. Her life has been retold in countless plays, poems, and films, each interpretation revealing different facets of her complex character. Some see her as a seductive temptress, others as a brilliant strategist, and many as a symbol of female empowerment. Beyond the myths and legends, Cleopatra's true legacy is one of resilience. She navigated treacherous political landscapes, faced down enemies, and made bold decisions that shaped the fate of nations. Her ability to adapt, to blend diplomacy with strength, and to remain true to her identity offers lessons that remain relevant today. The city of Alexandria, once her home and seat of power, continues to be a place of cultural significance, a testament to the rich history she helped shape. As the Nile flows endlessly through the lands she ruled, so too does her story flow through the currents of time. Listening to her tale is a reminder that history is not just a collection of dates and events, but a living story of people, their hopes, dreams, struggles, and triumphs. So as you drift into sleep, imagine the quiet night skies over Alexandria, the gentle lapping of the Nile's waters, and the soft glow of candlelight in the Queen's chambers. Feel the calm strength of a woman who ruled with heart and mind, whose story continues to inspire. Let Cleopatra's journey be a gentle guide into your dreams, a story of courage, wisdom, and the enduring power of legacy. As the night deepens and the stars twinkle softly above the Nile, let Cleopatra's story settle gently in your mind. May her wisdom and courage inspire your dreams, and may you find peace in the quiet flow of history's river. Sleep well and awaken refreshed, ready to write your own story tomorrow.